Universities are supposed to be places for open debate. But what happens when a conversation never gets the chance to start? When instead of dialoguing, students become a hostile mob and chase speakers off campus in a violent manner? Well, that's exactly what happened to Dallas Brodie when she visited the UBC campus in an effort to have discussions about the mass graves false narrative. Why did the students react with such rage and insanity? What does this reveal about free speech, fear, and ideological conformity on university campuses? Dallas Brodie is the MLA for Vancouver-Kilkenna. She's also the leader of the political party called UBC, and Dallas joins me now. Dallas, it's great to see you again.
Great to see you, Kat.
So, some wild scenes coming out of the UBC campus. Was that yesterday?
Yesterday.
From what I understand, you went there to have discussions about the mass graves false narratives, and you were instantly met with a mob. Do you want to describe how it sort of ended up as that? Did it start right away? Did it slowly build up as a mob? What happened?
I would say it slowly built. I mean, when we arrived, we all met at a parking lot, and I did have security with me, and Francis was with me, and Jim McMurtry, and we started walking over. And as we started arriving, we could hear the noise in the distance starting. And the campus was pretty lively, a lot of people around, just walking to and from classes. And we came around to this spot called the Dialogue Center for Indigenous Discussion. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a building that's been added on to the Sedgwick Library. I didn't go to UBC, so I don't know the total layout there. But as we came around the corner, there was a huge group collected and sort of ringleaders there, yelling and telling everybody, with loud hailers, yelling into the crowd and chanting. And when I arrived, Frances started walking ahead, and she went further ahead of me, and I got stopped immediately by media and some people who just wanted to start talking to me. Initially, I did have quite a few people who had come from around the province, and someone even from Alberta, to meet me and support me, which was really amazing. But so we'd be talking, and then suddenly I would be a bunch of young people from the school would come up and start blowing horns in my face and whistling right in my ear. And they have those speaker things that have the like police siren. They were just blasting that at me and then yelling at me. And I would try and just talk with them, but they would, they just don't listen. So, but it was fairly okay for a while. They weren't getting right up close to me initially. They were just, I would ask them, why are you here? I said, well, I'm seeking the truth. Do you like the truth? They'd be like, then they just resort to, F off, I hate you, go away. And then it was just down to like swearing. That's usually what would happen is if you ask them a question, they'd just say, no, I'm not speaking to you. No debate, F off. A lot of F off and F you. Wow. And F. Yeah.
Sounds academic.
Right? I mean, I was like, use your words. Like this is, you're going to school. This can't be the level that you discuss things on.
I want to show this one clip where you're completely surrounded and then just kind of get your take and your reaction of it, because this is one of the wildest scenes. You're in the midst of the crowd. They're all yelling. They're all shouting. They're surrounding you.
Okay.
It's your taxpayer.
They're chanting, my campus. They're saying they don't want you there. Is that even true, though? Isn't UBC a tax-funded university?
Yes.
Don't they receive taxes?
Yes. They get $1.1 billion per year. Billion with a B, billion, not million, billion from the provincial government. Think about that. And this group of people is saying my campus, and a lot of them I know aren't even attending UBC. And a lot of the older people who are the true organizers of this event, they're not attending UBC. And it was, this is the Communist Club of UBC, the Palestinian Solidarity Network, or whatever latest name they're using. This was really an organized mob of communists and I call them the international group of misfits who glob on to whatever is the exciting, trendy idea at the time, and they get them all revved up. I actually, it's not the kids' fault. It's these grown-ups who are inculcating them into this way of thinking. Funny, when I see that picture, you're standing in the center of it. When you're right there, all you can see is the people right in front of you. I didn't know the size of the mob around me. So, but that's quite something, hey?
There was other videos where they're just absolutely insane. I want to play this one other clip where you were forced into an aquatic center or some sort
Yes.
of I'll play this clip. The faces of these students, you can see some of their faces. Others have their faces masked, but the rage and the absolute just animosity in their eyes was insane. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip as well.
When you push someone, that's a goal. Go ahead. Don't push students out of our own building. Yeah, I say Jackson. You don't pay any Jackson. No, you don't. You don't pay taxes. He's gonna start students and push students out. We get free access to this building. They are denying our access. What's the ETA? 2 minutes. They're right here. They're here. Back off! Back off! I want to go. Move back. Please go inside.
That is just wild. Were you safe? Were you assaulted? Did they put their hands on you?
I got assaulted twice yesterday. One student came up to talk to me, and he pretended to be engaging in a conversation with me. And then he took his hand and like slapped my arm 3 times, and he hit me on the arm. And then he ran away. Like he must have been about 18. Imagine, I have a few comments about the behavior of the kids, but the other time another guy came up to me with a mask on, and my bodyguard was a little bit away from me, and he tried to do like a side hit on me. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm strong. I work out myself. So it could have knocked me down, but I'm stronger than I look. And I just stood there going, wow, here we go. Like, these are young men attacking an older woman. Think about that. And they feel completely okay doing that. What you're seeing there is unmitigated narcissism, the entitled, spoiled bratism of this generation. It is out of control, their sense of entitlement, their complete lack of respect for anyone. And one young guy came up and he was yelling at me, saying that he works in David Eby's office. He was yelling and yelling and yelling, like right in my face. And wow. He works apparently right with David Eby every day in his office. And he was yelling at me in full volume, 6 inches away from my face. You don't have a legislative office yet. You're disgusting. You don't do anything for your constituents. We're handling all your problems. Why don't you have an office? And then I started to answer, and then he just started yelling again. I said, excuse me, are you going to, if you've asked me a question, are you going to let me answer? You shouldn't be allowed to answer. And he just kept, this is what they do now. They just talk over you. They don't wait they have no inbox, only outbox and send. They push send and they have outbox, but no inbox where they sit and read. And I was trying to explain to him why I don't have a legislative office yet, which is the fault of the legislature. I'm the last MLA in the entire province that doesn't have an office. That's not my fault. I've been working as hard as I can on it, but I don't have control over it. And I've been doing all of my constituency work by phones and Zoom calls and maintaining just fine with that. I've been doing a lot of work. But this young guy works in David Eby's office, went on, just yelling at me. And I thought, this kid is so full of himself, so out of control. He doesn't want an answer. He just wants to hurl abuse. And I thought, I feel sorry for your friends and your girlfriend or anybody else who has to deal with you or your mother. You're just awful.
Absolutely. You know, I've seen many university campus mobs before, but I'm still just as shocked when I see it now versus when I first saw one, because I still cannot believe that this is what's happening on campuses. I cannot believe that students can't even just hear a different idea or a fact that they don't agree with. They're not even willing to listen. They immediately turn violent. They
Yes.
immediately turn hostile. They turn into a mob. They seem organized when they do it. They threaten. They just absolutely not interested in any actual academic endeavor, it seems.
One thing I saw yesterday a couple of times, there were some people who wanted to speak to me, even though they were there part of the protest group. And they were young people, and they started actually talking to me, and it was going back and forth. One of their colleagues would come up and say, no, don't speak to her. Remember, they said, don't speak to her. Interesting, hey? And they'd be pulled away to the side and sort of lecture, don't speak to her, because if you speak to her, you give her credibility. And I could see the pressure, the peer pressure on these kids not to submit to a dialogue. And that is good old-fashioned peer pressure, bullying, and indoctrination by the people who have trained them for this event. They've got it in their minds, do not engage, because even their posters that they put up all over campus said, no discussion, no debate, get off our campus.
And they call themselves a university campus where ideas are literally supposed to be discussed and debated. Wild.
Yeah, in front of a center that's called a dialogue center. But it's not a dialogue center, it's a monologue center. It's a place where only one message can come out, and the rest of it, you can just go to hell. We're not going to listen to anybody else, and you've got to submit to what we think, or we're going to attack you physically and scare you. And I kept thinking, this looks so much like the scenes from the Cultural Revolution in China. Exactly. It looked like all the students lining up and screaming slogans. It's cultural Marxism. People need to understand what's going on at these schools. These kids are not allowed to put their head up and disagree with any of the narratives. It's terrible. It's supposed to be a marketplace of ideas out there where their minds grow and expand. And that's not happening anymore. They're shutting them down. They're forcing them to be mental slaves to a narrative that is grossly lacking in facts and truth, and, grossly lacking in a lot of things. But this is what we're up against. And until parents start standing up and saying enough already, pulling their kids out of these universities, writing to the president and saying enough, this has got to stop. But this industry, in particular, this Indigenous issue, it is well dug in, and this has been building for many years. And that's why it's so well entrenched.
I have to say, they've got so bold that they stand up on a podium with a microphone, literally threatening violence. This is the clip that I was talking about. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet. I'm going to play it and get your reaction to it. Here's a student literally threatening violence if yourself or Francis or Jim McMurtry return to the campus again. Here it is.
Incredible work today. Incredible work today. And we're going to make sure these people never return. If they try, we'll show them exactly what fucking happens when they try. They're going to get their asses kicked right off this campus.
If they try, they're going to get their behinds kicked. Literally threatening violence because they cannot hear a dissenting viewpoint, a different opinion, or in this case, a set of facts that are uncomfortable for them.
I heard a chant resort into die, 1BC, and death to 1BC, death to 1BC. And I'm thinking, and then quickly it changed over. I think someone said don't, but they were shouting death. And I thought, here we go. The police looked so, did you see their demeanor even at the aquatic center? It's like they're like zombies or removed from everything. They're not even calm. They look angry. They look mad that they had to do something today. That was their whole demeanor was like, oh, I can't believe that I have to do something today. Instead of just, drinking coffee and standing around with my bulletproof vest on. I mean, you'd think that we were an interruption to their day. They knew we were coming. They should have been organized. They should have had it so that they would separate the groups. They should never allowed a crush to form in on us. That is a complete abdication of their duty, in my view. And they should have been arresting anybody who is, blowing whistles right in someone's ear. I believe that's categorized as assault. Another person had this big piece of bark or something that had this disgusting smoke coming out of it that was just chokingly strong. and they were like putting it in my face and, burning this thing right near me. And, what if I did things like that? It would be all over the news,
Of course.
right?
The
But
double standards are insane. It's really disheartening to watch police just, be so dejected at the fact that they have to do something like you said.
yeah,
I myself don't understand why don't Canadians, in this case Canadian students, why don't they want freedom of speech?
honestly, Kat, I don't know. This should not be even radical, what I'm doing here. If they had just ignored it and had Frances come out there and talk to 5 or 10 people, it would have been just a nice day in the sun where she gets to speak, I get to speak, present a different viewpoint. Everybody goes home a little bit more wiser, or they go home and think about it and say, oh, they still disagree with me, but big deal. This is actually fascism. Fascism is the word for the fascistas. What happened under Mussolini in Italy was you do not allow another point of view to even exist. That is fascism. It's neither left nor right. It just says you cannot have a thought or a word that disagrees with what, in that case, Mussolini says. You are, and so they stomp out any other viewpoint. So there's no other word for it, that this is fascism invading our university spaces. And I've been told by professors that they get in trouble if they try and do their jobs. Inside these buildings, even when I was at UVic, and we did this at UVic, a professor came running down the parking lot. I was being escorted off the campus by the police at the time. And he called to me from a distance. He said, hey, Dallas, we want you to know that hundreds of us here agree with you, but we can't say anything or we'll lose our jobs. That's a true story. And he just said, thank you for coming. And he just took off because he didn't want to be seen. This is what's going on. And it's okay if there are some professors at the school who hold this viewpoint, let them have it. But there has to be an allowance for the other viewpoints too. And I keep saying, if I were premier for a day, I would defund UBC immediately until it promised to allow diversity of thought. We cannot keep having these indoctrination factories as our universities. I've just gone through the process of getting my kids to apply to university. They're asking kids their sexual preferences on the application forms. They're asking them their ancestry. Imagine if I had an apartment building and I asked people their sexual preferences and their ancestry on the application form for an apartment, right?
It's so absurd. It's so absurd. It's like they demand diversity of appearance and orientation, but they do their absolute best to squash and punch down on diversity of thought. They're not interested in thought. They're not interested in academics. They're not interested in learning anything, it seems. They're just interested in what they have been inculcated with and repeating the indoctrination points and getting violent with anyone who challenges their views.
Yes. And it drops down to the most base form of communication. They start just swearing at you. And I mean, I remember someone told me when someone's using swear words, it's because they're trying to feel more powerful than they really are. And the swear word makes them feel power. Saying the F-bomb, I feel good. I got that out. But really, power comes from really using the English language. And so when people just fall down into swearing, I had a lot of people encircling me, giving me the finger over and over again, I just thought, God, I hope my children never behave like this.
I think you're doing an amazing job setting an example for your children, being so brave, going to these campuses, knowing what you'll be facing, knowing the hostility that is there waiting for you, knowing that it's a potentially a violent mob even, yet you go and you persist and you pursue truth and you try to have this discussion with these people. Dallas, thank you so much for everything that you're doing in that regard and with UBC as well. And thank you so much for joining me to discuss this. Really appreciate your time. God bless you in every way. Just thank you so much.
And God bless you, Kat. Thank you very much. You're also a very brave woman. Okay, thank you. Have a great weekend.